Thank you all for being here and for joining us in observance of Greek Letters Day. Καλησπέρα σας, σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που ήρθατε, καλώς ήρθατε και σας ευχαριστώ που είσαστε μαζί μας στη γιορτή αυτή των ελληνικών γραμμάτων 2023. On behalf of the board of the Hellenic American Society Prometheas, I would like to thank you and welcome you, welcome for being here. I would like to thank you and welcome you to today's event. I also would like to maybe start our ceremony, our celebration with presenting you our president, Mr. Peris Stabekis.
Thank you, Zoe. Καλησπέρα σας. Καλησπερίζω την κυρία Κάνη Μουρτουπάλα, την μορφωτική ακόλουθο της Ελληνικής Πρεσβείας, και την κυρία Μαρία Σαββίδη, η οποία είναι αναπληρωτής αρχηγός αποστολής της Κυπριακής Πρεσβείας. Καλωσορίζω όλους εσάς, μέλη και φίλους του Προμηθέα, και ένα ιδιαίτερο καλωσόρισμα στους καθηγητές, διευθυντές και τους μαθητές που τιμάμε σήμερα. Γιορτάζομαι λοιπόν σήμερα τους τρεις φωστήρες της Τρισηλίου Θεότητας, τόσο για την πολύτιμη προσφορά τους στον οικουμενικό χριστιανισμό, όσο για την απαράμιλη αφοσίωσή τους και πίστη στα ελληνικά γράμματα και την παιδεία. Η κοινή εορτή των τριών ιεραρχών καθιερώθηκε στα χρόνια του Αλεξίου του Κομνηνού, τον 11ο αιώνα, όταν ο Μητροπολίτης Ευχαϊτών της Μικράς Ασίας, Ιωάννης Μαυρόπους, προκειμένου να δώσει τέλος στις διαμάχες των λογίων για το ποιος από τους τρεις είναι ο πιο σπουδαίος, πρότεινε να θεσπιστεί κοινή εορτή των τριών ιεραρχών η 30 Ιανουαρίου. Πολύ αργότερα, το 1841, με διάταγμα του Όθωνα, καθιερώνεται και επίσημα η γιορτή των τριών ιεραρχών ως εορτή της παιδείας και των γραμμάτων, και στο 1856 το Υπουργείο Εκκλησιαστικών και Δημόσιας Εκπαίδευσης προσδιορίζει τις 30 Ιανουαρίου ως εορτάσιμη ημέρα σε όλα τα επίπεδα της εκπαίδευσης. Η μέγιστη προσφορά των τριών ιεραρχών αφορά στην πρωτοποριακή σύνδεση του αρχαίου κλασικού ελληνισμού και του χριστιανισμού και η επιτυχία τους να γίνει οντολογικά η σύνδεση αυτή και ορθοδοξία ζωής και ορθοδοξία εκκλησίας. Ο Προμηθέας γιορτάζει τη διπλή αυτή γιορτή ανελιπώς επί 35 συνεχόμενα χρόνια. Και αυτό γιατί περισσότερο από οποιαδήποτε άλλη, η γιορτή αυτή τιμά τις ρίζες μας και την οντότητά μας. Εδώ θα μου επιτρέψετε να συνεχίσω για λίγο στα αγγλικά για τους αγγλόφωνους φίλους μας. Today we honor the memory of the three pillars of Christianity, the three holy hierarchs, Basil the Great, Gregory the Theologian, and John Chrysostom. They were instrumental in shaping Christian theology while championing Greek letters and the value of education. The three are venerated as saints in Eastern Orthodoxy, Catholicism, Anglicanism, and other Christian churches. Prometheas has been observing this dual celebration for 35 consecutive years. In 2006, we started presenting awards to students of the Greek schools in our metropolitan area who excel in the Greek language and culture. We are pleased that now all 8 Greek language schools of our area participate in this activity. This year, we recognize 15 students from 5 schools. Since 2006, a total of 106 students received recognition with symbolic monetary awards totaling $21,400. In addition to these awards, Prometheas contributes to the annual AHEPA Awards program and to the University of Maryland Hellenic Studies program. Also supports the activity of the Great Washington Area Greek Education Association. Hellenic studies and the Greek language are high in Prometheas' priorities. Indeed, they are at the core of our reason for being. We are pleased and privileged to have as our keynote speaker this evening the accomplished scholar Stamatia Dova from the great city of Boston. I thank Dr. Dova for graciously accepting our invitation. A deserved thank you goes to all school directors and teachers for their enthusiasm, dedication, and for their cooperation with Prometheas. I also want to recognize and thank the Greater Washington Area Greek Education Association, whose main goal is to bring teachers together and provide opportunities for teacher seminars and continuing education. As always, we value the decades-long support of and relationship with the St. George's Parish. Our bond is strong and growing. Finally, I want to thank the Prometheas Board, in particular, Lefteri Karmiri, Costa Castano, Zoe Lafi, Ismini Lam, Yasmin Paraskeva, Alexandros Spiliotopoulo, and Vula Tsoutsura for their help in organizing this event. And now, on with the celebration, guided by our Cultural Committee Chairperson, Zoe Lafis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stabekis. Είναι χαρά και τιμή που σας παρουσιάζω την ομιλήτριά μας σήμερα. I'm truly delighted to present today's speaker to you, our community members. Stamatia Dova is professor of classics and Greek studies at Hellenic College in Brookline, Massachusetts. A native of Thessaly, she received her bachelor's degree in classical philology from Aristotelian University in Thessaloniki, her master's degree in classical philology from Boston College, and her PhD also in classical philology from Harvard University, where she completed her studies in 2001. She joined the Faculty of Greek Studies at Hellenic College in 2001 and has been teaching there ever since, along with brief teaching appointments at Suffolk University and the Harvard Center for Hellenic Studies in Nafplion, Greece. Her research interests include concepts of the hero in archaic and classical Greek literature and culture, Homeric poetry, Greek tragedy, and ancient Greek athletics. Her work also includes the reception of the classics in the modern world and ancient and modern Greek language pedagogy. She's the author of 2 monographs, The Poetics of Failure in Ancient Greece, published by Routledge in 2020, and Greek Heroes in and Out of Hades, which appeared in 2012 by Roman and Littlefield. She is also the editor of the volume Historical Poetics in 19th and 20th Century Greece, Essays in Honor of Lili Makrakis, published online at Classics by the Center for Hellenic Studies in 2012. And the author of articles and book chapters on ancient Greek myth and religion, as well as 20th century Greek literature, and especially the work of Angelos Terzakis and Ilias Venezis. Stamatia Dova is also the director of the Kalinikion Institute at Hellenic College Holy Cross, and an associate in athletics, Hellenism, and poetics at the Center for Hellenic Studies in Washington, D.C. Her current book project, under contract now, about to come out, entitled The Poetics of Olympism, examines the cultural poetics of ancient Greek sport and its reception by the modern Olympic movement. Professor Dova is also an academic co-coordinator of the International Scholars Symposium for Sport, Society, and Culture, which is co-sponsored by the Center for Hellenic Studies and the International Olympic Academy. and takes place in ancient Olympia every year. Today, Professor Dova will talk about athletics, community, and the chemistry of Óμιλος. Please help me welcome Professor Dova.
Kalispera σας. Good afternoon and thank you for having me. Excellent, thank you so much. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be with you here today, and I'm grateful for the Prometheas Society's kind invitation, and especially to Zoe Lafis, who is an esteemed colleague and a dear friend, and who has been a force of positive drive and inspiration in my career for decades. And I am also particularly honored to be here today as part of the celebration for Greek letters and to congratulate students of Greek, students and their teachers and their families and their parents, and to remind them that they are the hope of Hellenism for this country and around the world. So, before I begin, I have promised the Prometheas Society to speak briefly in Greek because, as I hear, there are people in this audience who have Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 speaking proficiency in Greek. Is this true? Therefore, I've changed my mind. The rest of this lecture will be in Greek, okay? So, δύο λόγια στα ελληνικά. Πρώτα απ' όλα για να εκφράσω την ειλικρινή μου αγάπη και τον βαθύτατο ενθουσιασμό και σεβασμό μου για το κατόρθωμά σας, για την επιτυχία σας. Και στους μαθητές και στις μαθήτριες και στους δασκάλους και στους γονείς και τους διευθυντές των σχολείων και όλους όσους έχουν συμβάλει, ακόμη και όσους δεν ξέρουν ότι έχουν συμβάλει. Γιατί όλη η κοινότητα παίζει ρόλο στη δημιουργία αυτών των νεαρών φοιτητών, αυτών των λογίων, αυτής της ελπίδας του ελληνισμού. Οπότε σας ευχαριστώ όλους, ακόμη και αν νομίζετε ότι δεν έχετε συμβάλει στη δημιουργία αυτών των φοιτητών, σας ευχαριστώ και σας συγχαίρω, γιατί χωρίς αυτή την προσπάθεια και χωρίς αυτή την επιβεβαίωση της ταυτότητάς μας, θα είχαμε χάσει ένα μεγάλο μέρος αυτού που είμαστε. Θα είχαμε χάσει ένα μεγάλο μέρος της ταυτότητάς μας. Και πάλι συγχαρητήρια, again, warmest congratulations. No matter what your level of proficiency is, whether you are A1, Α1, Β1, Β2, Γ1, Γ2, I know it sounds very complicated, but they all translate to a huge amount of effort. And they also necessitate a lot of kindness on the part of the teachers and the school directors, and of course a lot of dedication from the parents. And I would like to note here the words of St. Basil, whose memory we celebrate. When you sow kindness, you reap love. And I see a lot of love in this room today, and I'm very honored to be part of this event. And also, I see a lot of talent. I can see talent. I've been an educator for many, many years. And I can see talent, and I congratulate you for nurturing it. And I am sure that you will use it for yourselves and for the world. Συγχαρητήρια. A round of applause, please, for our students. And I have promised to keep it under 40 minutes, and I intend to keep my promise. So my topic today is athletics, community, and the chemistry of Óμιλος. And here I pronounce it in the modern Greek pronunciation Óμιλος, but I have on my title Homílos because this is the reconstituted Erasmian pronunciation of ancient Greek. Does it matter? Of course not. What matters is that I had to choose a topic, and I was clearly instructed to come up with something that will interest the young. So I beg of you to give me a high rating, okay? Because I'll be in trouble otherwise. So I chose a term that occurs in ancient Greek epic and is a word that we have in English today and that has survived the Greek language from Homer to our days. So this is my intended goal. I hope that everybody will see in this journey of a word the recognition of the endurance of the Greek linguistic spirit and the power of the Greek language. And this is what we have in common. This is what we all have in common here. We have a lot of love for this worthy and necessary cause, that is Greek culture, and of course, language is the DNA for culture. And I don't say this because I earn my daily bread by teaching Greek. I say this because really language is the DNA for culture. And I shall endeavor to demonstrate how this happens with this particular word. So this is the crown, and the crown belongs to you, the students we are celebrating today. My research covers all of Greek language. The search engines I have used for this project, which was first presented in Olympia, Greece, at the symposium where I serve as co-coordinator, and I present every year. And this will be part of my new book. It will be actually the first chapter. Ευχαριστώ, Αντώνη, να είσαι καλά. It will be part of the first chapter. And here I have the guiding principle of this presentation. And this is, of course, a word, a phrase by the Athenian orator, the classical Athenian orator Antisthenes, who said that the beginning of wisdom is examining the words. So let us see what wisdom the term ôμιλος will yield for us. And this is the outline of my research, linguistically speaking, in terms of volume. As you can see, I had to go through more than 500,000 terms and more than 500,000 passages to establish a pattern and to establish a series of meanings for this term. And the database I used is the Thesaurus Lingai Graecae, where I have access to the entire corpus of ancient Greek writing. I see some people smiling in the audience, and I assume they are philologists like myself, and I'm really in love with this tool. Now, as you can see, we're talking about more than 1,500 attestations of the word, and more than 6,000 attestations of the verb ôμιλο. Now, this is what we do, ôμιλο, μιλάμε, μιλάω, ομιλία, we know this word. And let us see how this connects to Homer. Now, in Homer, this word occurs, in the Iliad in particular, occurs 76 times, and this is the 74th occurrence. And the reason I chose this is because it involves athletics. And again, trying to keep my ratings high, 5 stars or more, I chose the speech that Achilles gives before when he announces the armed single combat in the funeral games for Patroclus. Now, this is a very significant passage because we have several firsts in the history of the world. The first is that this is the first full account we have of an athletic competition. We have a written account of athletic games, and these are the funeral games for Patroclus. We also have a first in that this is a use of this term that is not unusual from what we have in the rest of the Iliad, but here it means two things. You have the word ôμιλος, meaning the group of spectators, and at the same time, the pool of contestants for a sport. And this is the event. And you would think it's kind of of an exaggeration, to get so excited about a piece of broken vessel, about just a shard. And yet, this is one of the most significant broken pieces of pottery. It's currently at the Archaeological Museum in Athens, and it depicts the funeral games for Patroclus, the chariot race, and we are sure about it because it is inscribed. And I have circled the inscription. You can see there we have the signature of the first vase painter that survives today. And, well, he was really proud of his work, and so he made his work speak for him, and he says, Sophilos made me. And this is what the inscription means. So this is the homilos. We stay with this notion of a group, like us, a community. People gathered around something. What is our center of attention today? Όχι εγώ, εσείς. Πολύ ωραία, αλλά εσείς. So these are the meanings of the word omilos or homilos in the Iliad. And let's conventionally place the Iliad from 850 BC to 800 BC, conventionally. So now we move to the Odyssey, conventionally 750 BC. And what we have here? We have a gathering. Now, this gathering is not particularly nice because this is a feast that the suitors of Penelope are enjoying, wasting Penelope's and Odysseus's and Telemachus's household goods. And this has to stop. This is an abuse of hospitality. And so Athena, the patron goddess of Telemachus, comes to the palace, disguised as a guest, and pretends she has no idea what is going on. Of course she knows what's going on. But she has to ask the question. And she asks with the word homilos, what is this gathering? Is there need for this? Is there a reason to celebrate? And of course, I have underneath, in both ancient Greek and English, the translation of the Scholia in the Odyssey. And this was a very popular scholarly activity at the time of the fathers of the church and the three hierarchs. So here I'm taking you to Kerkyra. Has anyone been to Kerkyra? Yes. There we go. In this room, I have met people from my father's and my mother's home areas in just the last half hour. It's overwhelming, you know? It's overwhelming. But this is Kerkyra, and the reason I want us to go there is that Odysseus, who is still anonymous, nobody knows he is Odysseus, he wins the discus competition. He throws the discus further than anyone else. And his patron goddess, Athena, appears to him and says, you know, no one has any doubt that you are the winner because you are so far out of the rest. You stand out of the homilos. And let's face it, ancient Greek culture is very competitive. Ancient Greek culture values excellence. And this is why athletics became such an important part of ancient Greek life. It is a venue for competition. So this is another instance that I really want to highlight of homilos. And now Odysseus has made it to Ithaca. He accomplished his dream, his goal of nostos, of homecoming, but he does not reveal himself yet because he knows that there are bad people in his house who are taking advantage of the hospitality of his wife and his son, and he wants to proceed cautiously. And so when he talks to one of them, the second in command, in fact, his name is Eurymachus, he says, well, you're not a good person because you keep bad company. And your homilos is not a homilos of virtues person. But he doesn't use the word homilos. He says homilis, you hang out. Homilo also means I hang out. Because when you keep company with someone, obviously you converse, you speak. And this is a new use. We have a gathering where people talk, and here I'm taking you about 50 years later. Don't worry, I will fast forward the second millennium, so we're not going to go every 50-year increments, otherwise we'll be here until next weekend. But yeah, this is one of the disadvantages of having a language that has such a long history, you know, it can take forever. But here I really want to paint a picture for you. Imagine a festival. Imagine the panegyri in your community. Do you have a panegyri? So imagine the panegyri and imagine the dance. Imagine the dance. What is the shape of the dance? A circle, okay? It's the circle. So imagine all the people outside the circle admiring the dancers, admiring the amazing Kalamatiano, the amazing Sirto, the other dancers they dance. And here it is this circle of admirers, a homilos, like a Stephanos. It is a homilos like a crown. Can you visualize this? That's how I visualized it. And that's how someone who lived at the time of the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite visualized it too. The concentric circles. And you have the object of attention, and then you have concentric circles of homily, continuing to ripple out. And this is what we are today for those wonderful students. We are the Stephanos of admiring spectators. Am I keeping my ratings high? Okay. We are moving to late archaic, early classical period. And here we have a poet, Pindar, who writes amazing victory songs for athletic winners. Everybody wants to have their victory at the Olympics or other athletic competitions celebrated by the songs of Pindar. And in Pindar, this word means όμιλος is still a group, and to omile, omilo is to associate. And a visual, here you have an ancient Athenian athlete from the gymnasion, the gymnasium, receiving the victory fillets, the victory ribbons, the special objects that mark their excellence. Now, it was not only athletics, it was also music and poetry that provided a forum for competition and excellence. And this is the case here. You have on the left a young man singing and playing the kithara. You have the instrument in his hands. And then you have above a judge in a music competition. We are now entering the classical period. And the όμιλος is present not only in athletics, but also in the arts. I'm trying to please Zoe here. And of course, Pindar again, the celebrating poet, the author of incredible, riveting victory odes. And what is his dream? When he's talking about what he would like, he wishes that the person he celebrates, actually it is a horse race, and this is the owner of the horse who is receiving the praise. And this victory song was composed 300 years after the first Olympics. First Olympics, 776, and this victory ode, 476. And this is what Pindar wants to associate, to hang out, to be together, to consort, to omilin with victors along the world, and especially the Greek world, and this way to have his own excellence and art appreciated. It is a moment of celebration, and a moment of celebration in athletics entails a lot of sound, a lot of body language, and the όμιλος expresses the shared enthusiasm for the group's success. I try to pick different instances. And of course, you have some happy persons, your age. And of course, I'm sure nobody fails to notice the 34, right, on that shirt. Now, again, the ômιλος celebrates the victory of the hero. But here, the ômιλος is a community of extraordinary happiness, blessed with eternal peace and tranquility. These are the Hyperboreans, and they live at the northernmost part of the world. They are Apollo's favorite. They know no sadness, no disease, no war, and they experience this blessed existence. They have a great festival for Apollo. And guess who goes there? Perseus. He becomes one of them temporarily, and this is a song by Pindar. And of course, Athena takes him there, and after that, Perseus accomplishes his greatest labor, which is to slaughter the monster Medusa. And you have this magnificent illustration. Perseus, supported by Athena, kills the monster Medusa. It's currently at the British Museum. And it all happens after he joins that ômιλος of blessed Hyperboreans. Now, this is a rite of passage. This is crossing a tough territory in life. It's like final exams, okay? I'm a professor, I give people final exams, and I understand their stress. But at the same time, it's a necessary stress. It's a productive experience. It's a growing experience because you conquer your fears, you conquer your whatever gaps you have in the material, and you prove with that certificate that you have made it, that you are one of the worthy. And what is, it will come. Now we know. What is a better illustration of this passage than the crypt in Olympia? This is the actual crypt. I cross it every year. Sometimes I cross it with Zoe. And this is the passageway to the stadium where actually the foot races took place in ancient Olympia, in the ancient Olympics. So this is the passage through which the ômιλος will go to do what? To watch the runners. And the ômιλος will be gathered on the left and the right and all around, and they will be focused on the experience of the athletes. They will follow their every step, and when the winner crosses the line, they will rejoice. They will have an experience of shared enthusiasm. In other words, they will build a shared identity, and they will be part of an imagined community. Now, this community is real, but we call it an imagined community in terms of what are the ideals, what is the theoretical premise for it, what connects them, like us. I come from Boston, originally I come from Thessaly, we come from all over the world, but as an imagined community, we are connected by the Greek letters. We are here to celebrate the Greek letters. And here, I guess we need some curtains. And I would like to dedicate this slide to Pericles, because this is all about the Athenian Empire. In Thucydides, the ômιλος, that is the author of the Peloponnesian War and classical Athens, is again the assembled company. And this is, it will come in a moment. Andonis promised me. Yeah. This is the passage where we have ômιλος in Thucydides. And of course, we have it on other occasions too, but I chose this one for the sake of brevity, and also because Thucydides has Pericles, not our Pericles, but his ancient name day. I'm sure Pericles would do a great job delivering the epitaphios too. So he says that this whole assembled company, the ômιλος of citizens and strangers and foreigners, will benefit from listening to this oration. And what is this oration really? It is the summary of the Athenian city-state. It is the story of how this state came into being, what is the political system, why is it so great. And of course, we have to be realistic and acknowledge that it is a democracy at home and an empire abroad, and this is why the xenoi, the xeni, the foreigners are included, but it is Pericles who imagines this community, and he says everybody will benefit from listening to this, because this is the praise of Athens. This is what we have accomplished as a state. And here you have a contemporary depiction of this oration, 19th century. And most importantly, we need to keep in mind that we are dealing with more than 500,000 words. So in this 600,000 and 33,000 words, you have so many cases of ôμιλος. Okay, I need to do it very gently. And this is a very interesting story. I don't know how many of you, we teach it regularly in college, the story of the encounter between Chryses, the legendary king, the wealthiest man alive at his time, and Solon, the wise Athenian statesman. And Solon went to Chryses' palace, and the visit didn't go well, because Solon did not really pay attention to wealth, and Chryses had him visit the treasury and showed him all the money he had there and all the gold, and then told him, you know, who do you think is the happiest man alive? And Solon said, well, the happiest man alive is an Athenian I knew. And Chryses was outraged. It is like Scrooge McDuck diving into his big tub of golden coins and being told that he's nobody. And the visit didn't end well. Eventually, Solon tried and managed to explain to the king that you cannot judge a person's life until it is over, and definitely money is not the sole criterion for happiness. So he was really crestfallen, the great king, but this is the aftermath of the visit, and the reason I included this here is because the source is 2nd century, 1st and 2nd century AD, Plutarch, but the context is 7th, 6th century BC, the life of Solon. So imagine the endurance in centuries of this story. This story has endured, let's say, from the 6th century BC to the 2nd century AD. And we still teach it we teach it in schools. It's part of my course on the world of Greek heroes. It's part of the curriculum. And there you have the word ôμιλο, to converse, to speak and communicate. Here's the summary, and now starts the fast forwarding. So we have, of course, Plato, 4th century, and then we have no attestation in 4th century writers, including Aristotle. They were not really talking about this. In the New Testament, it has come to mean to talk, and then in Lucian, who is 2nd century AD, to consort, to hang out with. In Procopius, the 6th century, 6th, 7th century historian, to consort. And finally, we go to the Epic of the Genisa And the Epic of the Genisa spans over several centuries, and it compresses many traditions. But there, it's, of course, the first epic poem in modern Greek literature, and it means to talk. So we meet and talk. Now, from up to the 11th century, as you know, we have a cultural gap where the Greek language suffered greatly. and was barely maintained. And now we arrive at 1831, the early to mid-19th century, and the establishment of the modern Greek state, a very small, very weak Greek state that faces very important questions about its language. What should the language be? Where should it draw material from? Should it be ancient Greek? Should it be Demotic Greek? And this is item 1. Item 2 is the revival of the Olympics, and it is important because it re-established athletics in modern Greek as an official activity and as a private one. As a public and as a private activity, we have the formation of athletic clubs. And guess what word was used for those clubs? It's όμιλος. Όμιλος and συλλογός. And here is the poster for the first modern Olympiad in 1896 in Athens. You have on the left the figure of Greece, and at the very, very top, 1776 to 1896, which is the first modern Olympiad. And then on the viewer's right, you have the poster for the Olympic hymn composed by Palamas and Samaras. This is the same hymn you hear at the Olympics today. And oftentimes it is sung in Greek. And the first marathon race. We don't have time to go through it. I have published a whole article about it. But the essence is that it was not an ancient competition. It was a new idea. It was an entirely modern initiative by a modern scholar and antiquarian, Michel Brial. And the person on your left is the first winner of the marathon race. The winner of the first marathon race was a Greek young man. His name was Spiridon Louis. And on the right, you see him in a poster with the winner of the Intercalated Games of 1906, again in Athens. And his name was Billy Shering. He was a Canadian. And the reason I have included this poster is because of the shamrock. And yes, now this is a legal disclaimer. I am a fan of the national team of Greece, okay? But Panathinaikos used the term όμιλος when it was founded. And then they adopted the shamrock. It was, according to one version, after the intervention of an athlete called Michail Papazoglou, who was part of Panathinaikos. And according to another version, it was Billy Shering, whose shirt you saw, that gave the inspiration. Be as it may, early 20th century, we go back, in a way, to Homer. And we have the same term for an athletic club, for the imagined community, the circle of spectators, and the pool of potential contestants. And this is the first published occurrence of the word όμιλος in modern Greek press. 1906, April, and it is about a game between the όμιλος of some British officers and the όμιλος of the Gymnastic Society of Athens. This is the first attested, published occurrence. And of course, Panathinaikos, and because I don't want to leave anyone out, so, and of course, what is the essence of όμιλος? We go back to this schema, to this visual depiction, and it is this circle. we gather around to celebrate an event. We feel the heartbeat of the community. And this heartbeat is really what keeps the community together and what keeps the next generation joining. And this is our goal today, is to send the message to these wonderful young persons that what they have accomplished is precious. And here you have the Greek Webster, the Greek Merriam-Webster, which is the Lexiko Triantafylidi. And I have it here in Greek. And of course, it talks about ikopitis pitas. So this is what we are doing today. And this is the English translation. And we go back full circle where we started, with the meaning of the term ôμιλος, a group of people with common interests, a term employed especially in the title of clubs, unions, societies, also the place at which the members of an ôμιλος hold their gatherings. So we have established that this word has been so resilient and so powerful that it survived millennia of linguistic wanderings and a lot of cultural hardship. And now we don't need the Merriam-Webster to tell us that the word homily has Greek roots. I don't like to sound like Mr. Portokalos, but we are light years ahead the Merriam-Webster. And of course, they do a wonderful job explicating the history of the word homily, which, of course, starts with the ancient Greek homilos, meaning crowd or assembly. And of course, as we have established, Greeks used homilos to create the verb homilin, to consort with or to address, as well as the noun homilia, conversation. And then from Latin, we borrowed homilia, Anglo-French, and then it came into Middle English, changed the spelling a little bit, and here we are, homily. So with this completion of the Stephanos, with this closing of the circle, I would like us to remember how strong is the bond we have here today, the linguistic, the cultural, and mostly the cherishing of the accomplishment of these young students and all the hope they bring to all of us here, regardless of what our occupation is, regardless of how direct or indirect their involvement is with their educational progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dova. Σας ευχαριστούμε. And we now continue. I will give the floor to Mr. Stabekis again.
I want to thank our speaker, Dr. Dova, on behalf of all of us, on behalf of Prometheas, and I want to present her with a certificate of appreciation from all of us to you.
Okay, keep smiling. Good. Good.
Σας ευχαριστώ θερμά.
So it's a great lecture for a great voyage of a word through centuries, and it speaks highly of the Greek being truly an international language. It's in all Western alphabets, thousands of words come from Greek, and it was a pleasure being guided through the long trip of one. Thank you again.